Well, I don't know who cares about the opinion of this paperman yet, but let's recommend and talk about a new game from not the 360 era. Trepang2, or however you say it. First, some backstory since I've been waiting for this game. So I first saw gameplay through Twitter because all my Twitter is art and indie games, and it looked really good, but I bookmarked it and forgot about it. Then, sometime later, watching Jarek the Gaming Dragon, he brings it up again by explaining it as a F.E.A.R-like game. And at that time, as someone who just finished F.E.A.R for the first time in 2021, I wanted more of that game. It's fights with the AI that's still amazing today, overpowered slow-mo, great guns, and basically everything besides the location variety because there are too many offices. So, after all that wait for Trepang2 and finally playing the full game, what do I think? It's so good. It definitely matched the hype of being one of my most hyped games of the year. It's probably my number one since Angerfoot doesn't come out anymore this year. Now, onto the game itself. Is it like F.E.A.R? Yes, it's like F.E.A.R, but cranked up. The gameplay is fast and brutal. Sprinting in, sliding into a group of enemies, making them go flying while I'm firing my dual-wielded incendiary shotguns was always my go-to in most fights. I also did something different for this game I usually never do for most games. And my first playthrough, I played it on hard mode. I usually play on normal to see what the game's like, but I gave hard mode a chance first. It seemed fine, but I always had a problem when they threw you into a small battle arena, and it mostly involved being out of health and health kits. Then again, I barely used the invisible ability and was always out of slow-mo, but that's on me and not the game. One thing I really liked about this game was the paranormal aspect. Without spoiling much, there was a lot of cool and creepy stuff that happens, and my favorite mission was one of the non-story missions, but of course it had to end in a big battle, but that beginning part was great. As for the way the story is progressed, it's mission-based instead of the linear type gameplay of F.E.A.R, which really helps out a lot with the location variety. It's decently short, only being 5 main missions and 6 side missions that mostly involve surviving waves as something happens with a few different ones. The side missions are where most of my troubles come from with the battle arenas though, but they're fine. Last thing I want to talk about is the weapons, because they're good. I'm mostly stuck with half the weapons, being the SMG, pistol, shotgun, minigun, and bolt launcher. I didn't really like the others and only really used them when I needed to. Those being the rifle, DRM, and grenade launcher. The DRM feels too slow for this game, and the other two are fine, but the rest are just too good. The weapons normally are good, but that's not enough for this game, so they give you upgrades to customize them. The best being the incendiary shotgun, which took me through half the game. Then with the minigun you get attachable bayonets for the barrel of the gun, so that way when you fire you can cut right through enemies. And combine that with the best thing to come out of Titanfall 2, the smart gun, so you don't even need to aim. Then, of course, since it's a F.E.A.R-like game, and every F.E.A.R game needs one, an upgrade that turns your bolt launcher into the penetrator, pinning the enemies into the wall. There's also grenades, which thankfully kept F.E.A.R's exploding on impact mechanic. My favorite is definitely the firebombs, with how they work and even visually. I guess my only complaint with this game comes from something involving the weapons, that being that the game sometimes seems to have a delay. I don't know if it's the game or just the fact that I'm using a wireless mouse, but a lot of the time when I click the mouse, it doesn't fire. It's definitely gotten me killed a bot, but seems like if I click again, it's usually fine. It's definitely my favorite game that came out this year. Okay, maybe that's not saying much, because I only played that and Dead Island 2 and a couple other smaller games. I've been trying to finish my backlog. Okay, well, let's end this review. So, until next time, I'm out.